Yeah.
I called you a slacker.
Yep, that's me.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Look at this.
All right, we are go for lunch.
Full of money.
Good afternoon. Please, I'd like to call the February 22nd, 2021 Town Board Workshop meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Here.
Councilmember Stafford,
Here.
Councilmember Safranek,
Here.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin with the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have 6 special permits coming up for this meeting. Caliber Collision Auto Body, that's to remodel and convert an existing building. Plug Power, that's also to remodel an existing building for, it talks about hydrogen fueling. That, if I remember correctly, is phase 2. First phase is primarily production and storage. We have Himalayan Liquor and Wine Store. That's operated retail. Again, I think that's existing structure. Rochester Cornerstone, that's to construct a 4-story, 150-unit senior housing structure at the mall. So that they're going to be taking advantage of the mixed use overlay. As part of that, we have, they are filing a separate, a second special use permit. So this one we're going to treat for the apartments itself. And there's a second one coming in for the mixed use itself. Okay.
Because they were originally going to try to do just their lot as the mixed use. It really didn't work. When we if you remember when we were talking about mixed use, Marketplace Mall was absolutely one of them we identified as a perfect example of where it could go.
I remember
And
that.
so the idea is that, I reached out to Wilmerite to talk to them about doing it, putting the application in. So like the central mall court and the food court would be considered civic space, as would, if they have any areas around the retention ponds with picnic tables, things like that. And then obviously you've got the retail space, you've got the hospital space, you've got this potential, potential multifamily housing. And then I even suggested to them that they might want to consider in the application identifying the former Macy's building as industrial space, as if it were to become office building, for instance. One of the things in that is, when they do the application, it's not locked in. As I pointed out to them, you can come back and update it as plans changed. But that way they could potentially go out with approval ready stuff for office space. And again, the more people you get foot traffic in that mall, the better off it will be for the mall itself and its survivability. So
Exactly.
so they're putting that together. I don't know what their plans are with the Macy's space, but we'll see what they do. But so like I said, and especially on that Cornerstone, we're just going to collect the public input. Because we already scheduled it and notified people, we're going to hold the hearing. But obviously no decision can be made until after we're done. We have to first approve the multi-use application, and which means they basically got to get it to a point where it can be approved. So we'll see what give and take comes on that one.
Next one is the Arthur Jackson Slice and Scoop. So that's yet another restaurant. Again, I'm fairly certain that's a existing facility. And then finally, we have aptitude for 6 student housing buildings. That's on East River Road. That's again also using a mixed-use development. It's essentially student housing on the western side of the Larkin property and a future industrial site on the eastern side of the building. Any questions on those other than what we've already discussed?
Just real quick, the Cornerstone Group one is the senior housing. Is that going actually into the mall or onto the mall lot?
It is going into the former movie theater lot. Now, unless you've been here a long time, you don't remember a movie theater there, but way back when in the 80s, there was a General Cinemas, southwest corner of the mall parking lot. So west of Field and Stream.
Okay,
In that south corner.
okay.
They are looking at whether there can be any way to, I don't think there's a way to direct connect to the mall unless they do some sort of skyway, because the Miracle Mile Road's going to be between them and the mall.
Right.
But the point is it'll be fairly easy access. So again, southwest of the Dick's Sporting Goods and the Dave and Buster's, although Dave and Buster's is closed down right now because of COVID, and I don't know that it's going to survive.
Yeah.
The race, RPM Raceway closed and somebody opened right up, I mean.
Yeah, they open.
Somebody took it right over.
Yeah.
We
Right.
did that the other night, and it's just a new.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going to happen in that regards, but it's, like I said, it's, as if malls weren't already having enough problem, COVID came along and made them worse. So that's the plan with that one. That one is going to be affordable senior housing. And they are applying to the state so that there will even be some rent subsidies for people below the mean area income. One of the nice things about that, when we were, they're looking to do a shelter rent agreement. And one of the questions, I think it was one of you guys asked, Millie, maybe someone had asked about what we were doing to be sure to monitor that they live up to their promises of affordable. The nice thing is New York State's organization that provides the subsidies, they do an annual audit.
Okay. That's
So basically what we put was when we were discussing the potential pilot, what we put in the pilot is that they have to, in order to keep the pilot, they have to essentially maintain a positive rating from New York State with regards to their affordable housing. So since we don't exactly have that expertise, we've got an agency who that's what they do for a living. So.
great.
Any idea what they construe as affordable?
Yeah.
I mean, they give us like because if it's in New York State, I'm just hoping they're not taking into consideration like New York City.
Right.
No, they do it by area. That I do know. That's why, like I said, even the AMI, it's the area mean income.
Yep.
So, but when they're here, we should absolutely ask them that question. In fact, I'll send them an email so that they're ready to answer that question.
I guess the other question that I would be of interest from them as well is, so it's senior apartments. Do they also allow for individuals who maybe aren't seniors but have disabilities?
That I don't know. One of the things I will say online when talking with people, I had asked some folks, they thought for them $1,200 a month was affordable for a what they considered.
Guess that depends on how many bedrooms you got, but
I know.
seniors usually don't have that many bedrooms. You got
Understood.
two, it's a lot.
$1,200 is a lot.
It seems like a lot.
That's
to
what
me.
it seemed like to me, but she was saying when she went out
she could only, they were north of that.
Well, I know if they go to like Erie Station Village and things like that, they're more expensive, but you can get apartments in the suburbs that are like.
Can I interject a second? Lisa, we can't hear you virtually.
Sorry,
Check your,
Check.
is it on? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, I'm talking, it's to the right of me and I'm talking to the left of me, I apologize. I was just saying that $1,200 seems a little more than affordable to me. Seems a little,
Understood.
if it's a one bedroom or something, I mean, it just seems
right.
a lot.
A couple of years ago, they sent they sent this information or somebody
they?
sent, I'm trying to remember now. Somebody sent it to me. What affordable was, what subsidized would be, and it was all broken down.
Right.
And I'll try to find that.
That'd be
that
great.
email.
Yeah. And you mentioned there's an agency that specifically oversees, maybe they could provide some information directly to us
Sure.
regarding that.
And maybe there's grant money or not grant money, but maybe there's some way that they're subsidized a little bit more from the
Right.
$1,200.
Depending on what their income is.
Well, that, like I said, there is absolutely some that are done by AMI. I was just saying this is, because somebody was saying online, it's great that it's affordable. Now, I can't think of what other, so in other words, I don't know if they were talking about senior homes. They were talking this and or also the future, what's it called? The Freemasons in New York is also doing a senior housing complex. To my knowledge, theirs is not going to be subsidized in any way, but the thing was they weren't looking to do the high end.
Well, it is important that we get some affordable housing in Henrietta. Everybody's
Right.
been really asking for it, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Then we also have the public hearing. It's basically a revisit for the Delphi. There has been a significant modification of the plans in terms of they shrunk the square footage down by about 5 to 10%. They reduced the height to the 40 feet, so it will no longer require a special use permit. They shifted the whole thing to the west, so it provides 150 feet buffer from any historic parcel to the start of building or pavement. And it's closer to 250 feet between the edge of those historic properties and the start of the building itself. They're setting it into the ground so that actually, as you'll see in your board packets, if you look at the cross section from Erie Station Road, the height of the roof of the building is actually below the grade of the road. So the building will not be sticking up at all in that regards. So like I said, they've done a lot of adjusting the plans based off of feedback that they received at the public hearings previously, both from the town board and from the public. They have also moved the berm back so that it doesn't take out any of the existing trees that are in between the existing properties along West Henrietta Road and Erie Station Road and this parcel. And then the other thing we asked them to do was they were going to have a direct access from their parking lot out to the Erie Station Road entrance. Our fear is that could encourage trucks or others to go out that way. We don't want them going out that way, so they got rid of that. So now the only real convenient exit is out onto West Henrietta Road.
Steve, is it possible to get a hard copy of that for us to have rather than just on here? Because I would
Chris?
like to have something in front of me to actually, so I can like write on it or whatever.
Chris,
Yeah, this is Chris
take care of
Marvin,
that.
Director of Engineering and Planning. Yeah, what size do you want? Like 11 by 17s or bigger size?
11 by 17 would be awesome, I would think.
All right, I can do that for all the board members.
Yeah, for all of us,
Yep.
please.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris, can you grab Don one as well?
No, Everybody else except for Don. He makes too much work for
Don't
me.
worry, we'll charge him back.
All right, I'll do one for Don as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm blushing.
Okay. One of the things I'll note, we have the aptitude on the list of special use permits last because we're going to bring in the interpreter at 6:30. Since it's student housing, there's potentially a number of members of the deaf and hard of hearing community who would have an interest in the details of that particular application. So we put it last on the agenda. We're going to start our interpreter for the board meeting a half an hour early so they can interpret that public hearing as well. Looks like nobody sent us things they wanted to talk, so I guess we're talking about them all. So on the incentive zoning draft generic environmental impact statement, we're getting close to bringing that back to the, basically the work that Walt and Don have been doing is largely done. Don's got the draft of the local laws. Walt is putting the finishing touches on the supplemental GEIS. What we're going to need to do is basically at the next meeting, if I remember, correct me if I get the timeline wrong, Don, but at the next meeting, we're basically going to present the draft supplemental GEIS.
Said the second meeting in March.
It's the second meeting in March? Okay. And then that we're going to present it, or is that when we're going to hold the hearing?
That's when Walt from EDR is going to give us a PowerPoint and sort of the big reveal of the GEIS.
Okay,
And then you set the public hearing because the law requires you to present it first publicly and then set a public hearing after that, unfortunately.
okay.
It's a little more cumbersome, but that's what it says to do.
Yeah, so then we'll have the public hearing, then we have to essentially incorporate all the feedback from that public hearing to create the final GEIS. And only then can we finally adopt that. Out of curiosity, is there any reason, have we done a pause deck yet? Or should you just do that, you wait to do that, or?
I don't know if we did the pause deck. I thought we declared lead agency. I was looking at this the other day.
I'm almost positive we declared lead agency, but it was
Typically,
a
when you
long
do
time
that,
ago. Because
you
it
have
was
a
during COVID.
Yeah. I'll confirm with Walt, and then if we need to do that, we can do it when he does his rollout.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, and so then hopefully we should get, it's predominantly incentive zoning, but it also takes the solar regs that we did by our special use permit. We're gonna actually put those into code. So it essentially updates the solar, solar array regulations, including the ability for us is large scale solar, so up to the 5 megawatts. Any questions on that? So I know Mike and Rob have been through the GEIS process before, but it'll be new to you guys, so.
Makes me think of the schools we went to get this information out to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't, because this is just a supplement and hits one area.
Yeah.
We were completely redoing the
town.
comprehensive land use
Right.
plan. Not to mention, we couldn't get a school today if we wanted to because of COVID.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew there's a neighborhood meeting for the Authors Avenue, Nevins Road community. So there's a proposal to develop the former Belfry golf course If you actually look at Authors and Evans Road on the map, they both just kind of dead end. I would love to go back and find the original plans to see if there was a phase 2 that was going to extend those further south. Because you'd think if those were never intended to be extended, that they would have had a cul-de-sac loop there. Instead, they just literally stop. Well, this is extending those down into a development there. We sent the notices out to essentially everybody in those 2 neighborhoods. The law requires, I don't remember what it is, 1,000-foot radius. We just said everybody in those neighborhoods because the traffic all has to come out that way, so they would all be impacted. As you may have seen on Henrietta Highlights, there was a lot of pushback. Some of the comments are valid, some of the comments are not, like the Henrietta is doing this just for more revenue. As I say all the time, we get $0 of additional revenue by doing this. It's basically the amount of money we collect in taxes is set at budget time, irrespective of whether this thing goes in or not. If this does go in, it means the divisor, the rate drops. I calculated it out because someone had asked that question. Assuming everything else stayed the same, it would save the average taxpayer in Henrietta $1.28 on their town taxes.
Can barely buy a soda for that.
That's right. Now, obviously, we're only 4%. So you can multiply that by roughly 25. So you're looking at about $35 maybe total is what they would save in taxes between school, county, fire, town, ambulance, special districts, whole 9 yards.
When is that meeting?
It's tomorrow night, right?
The meeting, so the neighborhood meeting is tomorrow night.
And it's here in this,
Yeah, it's
It's also
the
on
hybrid, right, because there was unfortunately, again, under a normal year, we would have held it right at Sherman Elementary, right in the neighborhood.
Right, that would make sense.
But we can't use the school facilities, so we basically decided to hold it here because we had thought about the transportation center, but we wanted to be able to do the hybrid meeting where we broadcast virtually, so we decided it'd be easiest just to do it here. Again, it's intended for neighborhood people who live in the neighborhood only. The rest of the public, there will be a public hearing. It hasn't been scheduled yet because they have to get a bit more of their application in, but there will be a public hearing.
Is there a way that when those kinds of notices go out to neighbors, that the board can also be notified? I mean, you don't
Yes.
need a letter, but
So,
an
well, what
email.
you should do is go to the town website /subscribe and check on public notices, legal notices. You'll get every single one that comes through.
Well, I have.
This isn't a town meeting, so we didn't send out a legal notice for it.
Mhm.
Okay,
So what time does that meeting start tomorrow?
7:00.
6:30, it says.
I took it from, I screenshotted what somebody had
so
done.
Chris, I'm gonna ask you, when you are calling for a neighborhood meeting, could you just let the town board know as well?
Yes, and the meeting starts at 6:30. 6:30.
Thank you.
So if we want to get the Zoom information for that meeting,
That is on the website
okay.
under events. It's on the event calendar on the front page. What's the tab it on? Is it on?
henrietta.org/wishyouwerhere. You can get the information also.
Okay.
It's also just going to be listed on the calendar event that has the link to Wish You Were Here also.
Any other questions about that? So one of the biggest things online is them asking whether, instead of having it connect to Authors and Nevins, is whether it could connect to the private road that is in Hosmer's, and that they work out a deal with the Elks Lodge to bring a road out through the Elks property
On Eastern Uta Road?
on East Henrietta Road.
Wow.
That's what the online folks have said. You know, the issue there being, those are two private entities, not public road. Well, the Elks their road doesn't even exist.
No.
I'm not sure whether the state would allow a road exit right there. I don't know.
That land over there, the Elks, they use all of it.
Yeah.
It'd be really, yeah, I don't think that's gonna be a possibility.
There was also a question, could they get over to Middle Road? I told them that one's not possible because there are federally and state protected wetlands in between. So there's no way to get all the way over to Middle Road. As far as Hosmer's Road, they'd have to work a deal with Hosmer's, and they'd also have to get permission from the state to make that a full-fledged public road access. Because again, Lehigh Station Road is a state road. So one of the things that they've asked is whether with the additional traffic, whether they could add a traffic light at Authors. I said, I'm all for that, but unfortunately that's a decision, again, by the state. That is a four-way intersection. When school lets out, buses sometimes do have trouble getting out of there, especially making a left. To give you an idea, this is 114 units, and there are currently about 300 units in the Authors and Nevins area neighborhood. So, yeah, a little bit more than that. Yeah. About, I think, yes, between 35 and 40% increase. So it's not insignificant. And as I've said online, that it's that traffic that I think is going to be the biggest issue, is how do you deal with that traffic? From a construction standpoint, I would love to see them use the Hosmer, work out a deal to use the Hosmer Road. I have a little problem. So ignoring the whole private road, public road thing, I'm not a fan of mixing residential traffic and industrial traffic. And since that Hosmer Road is an industrial road, I don't know how keen I am on wanting to see the residential go out that way. But I think that's a great way to bring the trucks in, because I wouldn't want to see the trucks, the construction vehicles going down Nevins or Authors.
Yeah.
Just because of all the way Nevins is laid out, it kind of winds a bit, and there's all those cul-de-sacs. So potentially a lot of kids playing in the area, and of course, same with Authors, plus the added that the school's there. So if they can work a deal out with Hosmer's to have the construction entrance be off of Hosmer's property, that would be beneficial. One of the things that they would be doing in regards with this is that they would, they are doing improvements to the Lehigh Valley Trail, so that redirecting it down towards, sometime back, there was the plan to bring the trail up along the eastern side of Hosmer's property. So they would take it from the back of that all the way to the underpass. And then on the south side of the thruway, which is the other half of the property, they were going to donate that land to the town. And if you remember, the majority of it, we were looking at potentially turning into a motocross park. And the western portion would be where there would be parking access for both that motocross park and the trailhead for the Lehigh Valley Trail. So in addition to the other stuff, there would be we'd have one of the hearings regarding us potentially taking future land. Now, what we would probably look to do is create a organization that, like a Henrietta Motocross Club type organization that potentially takes ownership of that land. They're the ones who put in the rules. We would have them place an easement on it up front so that it could only be used for that motocross or as a town park. And that way it can't be developed because they're doing a cluster development. So that area would be non-developable. And so we'll see what happens. One of the things why we're considering that, we did crack down on four-wheelers and mini bikes riding in the street and on Lehigh Valley Trail, and a number of them said the same thing. The ones on the trail said the reason they were on the trail is they were trying to get to that old golf course because it's one of the only places in town that they can currently ride without causing issues. Even though they're technically trespassing on that property, the property owners were essentially absent. So I get that and understand that. And if we're going to try to crack down, it would be nice if the kids had a legal place to go. But we, of course, want to do that in a manner that is going to minimize liability to the town. And so that's why we'd probably look at that. The land would then be gifted over to the this motocross club kind of approach. But again, that's much farther down the road. Any other questions on that? New York State required us to create a public employer health emergency plan and then have the town board adopt it. So you've got the plan from Linda. I did see a couple emails going by between her and John Pozlowski from the union. I don't know where it sits as to whether the union has to sign off on it. Did we get that sign off yet, Linda?
So the union is supposed to be in agreement on it, and they're questioning 2 points. So I hope to have an answer from John or an agreement from John maybe tomorrow.
Okay. If we don't have that in time, we can do one of two things. We can either approve it pending approval from the union and from the town attorney, or we can kick it off, but we can't kick it off far because it's supposed to be in place soon. So.
Yeah, we can move this to the next meeting.
Right. That's what I'm saying. We can't go far. I think we can do one more meeting, but we'd like to get it in place now if we can.
So does this have like a March?
Yeah,
date?
it has to be in place by March.
Okay.
No, it's like was it mid-March?
I'm looking for the date. I'll get back to you on that.
Yep.
For the pandemic plan is early April.
Oh, early April. Okay, so in theory, we'd have 2 meetings, but. So the next one, basically for the LWRP, one of our first things we have to do is create a waterfront advisory council comprising stakeholders. So I put that together, although the one that went out in your packet's already out of date. We've gotten some updates. You notice there were a number of the organizations that said or designee.
Mhm.
Some of them have started to get back to me with who their designee is. But the makeup of the organizations, the stakeholders will not have changed. I had a good meeting with Phyllis Wickerham from the town of Rush, town board. Jerry Kusi, who's the town supervisor, has basically, Phyllis is now the town's representative for Rush. If you'll recall, we did this in a multi-jurisdictional LWRP, 70% Henrietta, 30% Rush. we're actually the only ones on the grant, because at the time this was going down was right when the former town supervisor, Kathy Frank, stepped down. They were kind of in turmoil. We couldn't get anything from them in sufficient time, so we decided to put it through with just us as the grant recipient. And you guys empowered me to put together an IMA. So that's one of the things that Phyllis and I are going to be working on, is getting an IMA in place. We've been operating off of, for lack of a better way to put it, a handshake agreement. I have a couple emails confirmed. Anytime there was a financial commitment, I made sure I got it in writing.
Okay.
But we want to put together a formal IMA. So we'll get that all done. But like I said, one of the first things we have to do for the state is name this waterfront advisory committee. The town of Rush doesn't have to approve any of this stuff because we're the sole awardees.
Okay.
Now, with that said, I bounced it off of, I worked with both Jerry and Phyllis in order to put together the representatives from Rush. But
How's Jerry doing? He's still ill?
yeah, I'd rather not discuss.
Okay.
But
Well, hope he feels better.
but yes,
There were some percentages that went along with that per the town for things that would be done. I don't recall what their percentages were.
well, so I mean, a certain amount of it. So the way it works is a certain amount of it is covered by the state, and then there has to be matching. Right. Any of those matching requirements, the town of Henrietta picks up 70% of the matching requirements. The town of Rush picks up 30%. And then the idea is 70%, and again, it's roughly
Right.
70% of the plans that, projects and stuff we put together will be in Henrietta, 30% of them will be in Rush. Any other questions on that?
No.
So then we've got the, I'm going to fly through these ones unless someone has something. If you want to hear Chris talk, he can talk more on it. But we've got the public hearing for this is all for the Forest View subdivision for the drainage district, sewer district, and water district. So those tend to be fairly straightforward. But if you have any questions you want to ask Chris, feel free. Looks like you're off the hook, Chris. We received a request from the county to authorize installation of stop signs on Wiregrass Park and John Street and Wiregrass and Lehigh Station Road. Both Lehigh Station Road and John Street are county roads. That's why the county's requested it. You need a resolution in order to be able to issue tickets for those stop signs, so. We've got two pieces of equipment. One is the purchase of a sidewalk plow.
Just out of curiosity, I was wondering why that comes out of the drainage department, the sidewalk plow?
Because that's who plows
The
sidewalks,
Okay.
sewer and drainage.
I got it.
What's that?
Question on that
Sure.
is, when do they expect that sidewalk plow to be delivered?
Chuck, do you know that answer? You're muted if you're talking.
I can find out by Wednesday.
Yeah.
Do you need your sidewalk plowed?
I don't have a sidewalk.
I don't either, so.
And then we were originally looking to purchase the sewer camera inspection truck, but the one we were piggybacking off of turned out to be not valid. Don, there is still a chance. The town of Arundecoit purchased the same vehicle. I spoke to Dave Seeley on Friday. He's going to get me the purchase vehicle that they used. If it has piggyback capability, I assume we can then just piggyback instead of going out to bid.
That's right.
So basically, the one we look at, we've been working with someone, the dollar amount is above the threshold where it needs to go out to bid. Again, originally, we were gonna do it under a contract. The contract that we were gonna do it under turned out not to be valid when we dug into it, so. What sometimes happens is people put out bids that you can piggyback off of, but then they never actually make the purchase.
Okay.
You can't piggyback off of one that they never made the purchase.
Mhm.
But we do know Irondequoit bought the exact same truck. And so we're going to look to piggyback off of that one, because when they looked at all the trucks, this is the one they want.
Sidewalk Plow, is that the dealership? Just waiting for us to pass the resolution.
Great.
Thanks. Is that the sign up? I've got a DMV thing on my desk, or is that a different thing?
Oh, that one's for the new sewer service truck.
Okay. So then for the Parks and Rec updated fee schedule, there's just a couple changes. Last year, we had looked at raising the rates on a couple of the rentals for some of the fields. In talking with a number of the folks, especially with COVID, the way it is today, there's no way we can get the additional dollar amounts. And so we basically just wanted to revert them to their old numbers.
Okay.
So that's what number 13 is about. That the only change is the it's some of the sports fields like that lacrosse uses and a couple others folks use over in Veterans Memorial. But like I said, it's from the limits on the number of people that can be on there and a bunch of the other stuff being driven by COVID. We were basically informed by multiple folks that they just can't afford to absorb the increase. So we're going to hold the fee schedule to what they had been last year.
Okay.
Again, appointing historic site committee members. So we've got the executive session to discuss the candidates as per the recommendation from the historic site committee. And we will essentially fill in the blanks tonight. As I mentioned, because we had for this one, we had gone through the process, sent out the notice to, out the e-notify list, got a number of really strong candidates. Interesting, a lot of strong candidates, each with a different strength, a different skill set that they could bring to the table. So one of the things that someone, I don't know if it was Tina or Gary or someone wanted me to make sure I point out when I call the people who didn't make it, is that there are going to be some openings in the not too distant future. So some of the candidates that didn't make it, well, pretty much all the candidates, they're hoping they're going to stay interested in historic and help out on other stuff, but that there will be opportunities for them to move up to the board itself as some of those openings come in. But it was interesting. They had a really tough decision, and it got down to looking at, here's the skills that the current board members have. Which one do the candidates have that current board is missing? Because, like I said, same thing as we just went through with the recreation openings. It's a good problem to have. I've got more really qualified candidates than I have openings. So
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate people stepping up and putting themselves out there to help.
And then we've got the budget transfers, personnel items, and bills payable. I don't know if anybody any questions on any of those.
I have bills.
Is there anything under old business? And can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the preceding workshop?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the town board workshop from February 8th, 2021.
Second.
I'm going to actually open discussion because I have an email that I started and I never got a chance to hit send because I've been in meetings straight. Becky, I noticed in the thing, you talk about our change in procedure. At the start of the minutes, there was something about how, you know, the ones that we weren't necessarily talking about all of the items. My question is, did we not adopt that at our organizational meeting?
It's not part of the town board rules. No,
So we don't have rules for a workshop?
no, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't doing stuff contrary to our adopted rules, because my point is, I'd rather modify the adopted rules than keep operating. The way it was worded made it sound like we were operating outside the normal rules, that's all.
No, we don't have anything specifically about workshop in the town board rules that I can recall.
Okay.
We can obviously certainly change that if we'd like, if you guys would like to.
Okay. That's all, I just want to make sure. And we can.
Yeah, I just tried to put the note there so people wouldn't think if there wasn't something there, it wasn't that
Okay,
we were omitting anything. Some topics just aren't talked about, so so I just put that note there.
no,
because
I
you-
get why the note was there, it just, like I said, the way it was worded made it sound to me like, oh, contrary to the way, you know, to the normal procedure, we're doing this, but, and it just may have been the way I was reading it. I just wanted to, like I said, if we have a published approach, I'd want to update our approach to match what we're doing, that's all. But if we don't have it published, then the note is fine. Okay, anything else? Hearing none, then please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. So as I mentioned, we have the executive session to discuss the personnel to fill in the blank for the resolution that we'll actually adopt on Wednesday. And then I do want to have an attorney-client session about what it means with regards to the legal letter we got with regards to the Delphi project. I just want you guys to understand what that means from a legal standpoint, allow you to ask questions of our attorney. We technically don't have to have attorney-client session on the agenda, but I said, might as well just have it on there. People understand what we're doing. So the plan will be to adjourn straight from executive session. So what we will do is, once I have a motion to move to executive session, we will end the broadcast for the evening. Any questions, comments before we do that?
Nope.
I see Mr. Martin is here with the printouts of the plans. So can I get a motion to move to executive session?
I make a motion that we move to executive session.
I'll second it.
Mike beat you this time. Hearing no objections, we will adjourn to executive session and then adjourn from the meeting from there. Thank you. Have a good night.